Hey everyone, it is me, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm doing the 100 Heads Challenge. The purpose of the 100 Heads Challenge is to draw 100 heads, faces, whatever, in 10 days. And you want to, of course, improve your ability to draw heads, but also part of the challenge is to improve your composition of your sketchbook pages, like creating better layouts and, making good use of the space that you have on the page. The challenge was created by Ahmed Al-Douri, and he is a professional illustrator and has his own YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description below. And he created a Pinterest page with 100 portraits, 100 heads in it that were to be used for the challenge. Now, I had my own Pinterest page already with portraits that I was already interested in drawing myself, so I drew some of those in addition to some of the ones from his Pinterest board. I don't really think that the purpose of the challenge is to draw the heads that he curated specifically, but you can if you want to. And I, of course, heard about the challenge through Drawing with Waffles, which is another artist YouTube channel. Now, for me, for my part, I used some of my own portraits that I had collected in my Pinterest page, not just because I was already interested in drawing them, but because even though his Pinterest board had good diversity of ages and races, I felt like it could use more children and old women, so later you'll see incorporated more children and old women. But this is me basically getting to the end of day one, and the composition of this page was okay, but that is definitely, I think, the aspect of this challenge that I struggled with the most. The top left head was the first one I drew, and that is Jessie. She's a K-pop star, but for the most part with these heads, these are people I don't know. I guess they're models or something like that. But anyway, day one, it took me a really long time. I think it took me over an hour and a half. And after that, I wanted to make sure that I started working a little bit more quickly and streamline the process. Part of my problem on day one is that I was doing pencil sketches, which made me want to go back and erase a lot. And that obviously takes up time. And I didn't want to be too precious with this. I mean, if you're drawing 100 heads, you can't expect them all to be perfect. But day two, I had a different problem. So I was using a highlighter as like a sketch layer and then going back over it in a green ballpoint pen, and I really liked the effect this gave, and it did serve the purpose of making it a little quicker. But I quickly realized in this challenge that basically for me to draw 10 heads, it takes an hour and a half no matter what. Like, no matter what method I'm using, that's about as fast as I can go. But the problem I had on this day was that you may be able to tell from the framing of the camera angle here, I was kind of sitting askew from the table, and the result that had is that basically all of the heads I drew on day two were like slightly crooked, cockeyed, skewed, warped, I guess. And so like all of their jaws were a little bit off center, except for this final head that I drew. I was more conscientious about, sitting in front of the paper properly. In day three, I continued using the highlighter and ballpoint pen method, except for the orange. That's not a ballpoint pen, that's like a felt tip pen. It's a felt liner. I don't remember what they're called, but I feel like teachers use them, like bougie teachers who are like super organized. Anyway, that was the kind of pen I used for the orange illustrations. And then for the blue ones, I did blue highlighter with blue ballpoint over top, and I thought that the orange and yellow would contrast really nicely with the blue, and I think I was correct about that. And again, my composition on this day wasn't that bad, but I still feel like these two heads that I'm drawing, this blue, I think she's like an Indian girl, and this girl who's like a porcelain doll, they're kind of cramped over there on the edge of the paper, and I feel like almost every day I've got two people cramped somewhere. And at the end of the day, I always look at the page and see, look at all this white space. If I had spaced these heads out or just moved them slightly or rotated them slightly, I could have made these illustrations larger and I wouldn't have had to squish them up on the edge of the paper. But usually it's the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner of the page that gets all cramped up. But on this day it was special. It was the middle row that got cramped up. But I think that the last two heads I drew on this day, the blue kind of Asian girl and then the Virgin Mary bust, I think that those actually turned out really nicely, and I was happy with this day. Day four, I used, instead of a highlighter, I used an alcohol-based marker, and it wasn't terrible, but the problem with alcohol-based markers on this paper in particular is how much they feather, and so I wasn't able to be very precise. I mean, I wasn't trying to be very precise because it's like a loose sketch layer, but the imprecision, I think, in this case didn't just come off as like, oh, it's like kind of becomes a shading or sketch layer. It's just like totally off base at times. And my recording cut out here because my phone that I was recording on ran out of battery. And the last 3 heads I drew, I think one of them is maybe Jimin from BTS. I don't know the BTS members' names by heart, but it kind of looks like him. And that's something in this challenge that I did not focus on at all, really, was capturing likenesses. I think part of it is because I don't know these people that I'm drawing. The only one I knew was Jessie, and it did look like her because I knew it was her, and like I kind of knew what features of her face really like make her look like her to me. Like for instance, I think that this guy that I'm drawing now, I don't know the actor's name, but he like plays Sandman in Spider-Man 3, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3. Well, I guess he comes back for the Spider-Man 3 with Tom Holland. But anyway, I think he's that actor, Lyle from George of the Jungle. And it kind of looks like him, but I wasn't really that focused on making it look like him. What I was really focusing on in this challenge was like placing the features on the face and the light and the shadow and facial structure, like in general, like anatomy, I guess, facial anatomy. And this green lady here, that was like a bust, a statue, and the statue, the reference was actually a green stone, and so it just didn't look right without me coloring it in, but she's the only one who gets color on this page. Now this next head is like a young black girl, and when I say young, I think she's supposed to be like in the picture, she looks like maybe a 10-year-old at the oldest, but I feel like my drawing of her, she looks more like she's 13 or 14. And I feel like that is sort of a weakness with drawing like a quick portrait, is making it look like the appropriate age when it's a child, and I definitely don't want to draw children looking older than they really are. So later in the challenge, I basically spent a whole day focusing on drawing children's faces to try and get the proportions and stuff like that right, because I definitely did not get it right on this day. And again, those final 2 heads are a little bit squished in the corner. It's not too bad, but yeah, they're pretty close together. But I liked the black and the white, and even though I did a pencil sketch, I don't think it took me too long because I wasn't obsessively erasing or anything. I didn't erase it at the end. I left the pencil sketch on the page and just did the inking over it. Now, this is day 6, I believe, and this is probably my favorite day, and if not my favorite day, one of my favorite days. I used a pink colored pencil and did the sketch layer with that, and then went over it with a pink marker or a pink pen to refine it and darken up the areas I really want to darken and sharp. And I think that was really effective. I liked the shading I was able to do with the colored pencil. It was a pretty soft pencil, and the one thing that was annoying was having to sharpen it over and over and over again. But I think that it created a really nice effect. And this day you'll probably notice, like right now I'm drawing Frankenstein, and so far I've drawn an orc and like this cartoonish looking haunted mansion guy and a Mr. Tumnus looking goat man. And so there was a lot of like fantasy characters and old men and stuff like that who were really cartoonish looking, and these were based off of like 3D renders or sculptures, and I thought that they would be hard to draw because of all the detail on their face and like the exaggerated proportions and stuff, but actually that made it easier because the proportions of the people I was drawing were not realistic at all. If I got the proportions off, then it didn't matter because it was a cartoon. So that old man that I drew last, like my drawing of him looks totally different from the reference picture, but it still looks really cool. And so we have 3 normal looking ladies and a bunch of freaks for day 6, and that was a lot of fun to draw, and I learned something new, definitely. The next day I did green colored pencil, and I didn't really do much inking or anything over top of it. I just did a green sketch. Now for this lady who's got this tricorn feather hat situation, I didn't like the way she was turning out. I just felt like I drew her face too small, and so I went over it with like a black marker pen. It's like, I don't know if it was felt tip or ballpoint. It was kind of a gel consistency, and it didn't work very well over the waxy texture of the colored pencil, so for the rest of the drawings I did not do that. But I did introduce yellow to add extra dimension to their faces, because this African like tribal looking fellow, he had yellow paint on his face, and I couldn't capture that with a green pencil, so I went ahead and introduced the yellow to do shading and blushing. And this is probably my least favorite head. Not probably. This is my least favorite head of the whole challenge because I drew this girl's mouth too low and I just could not fix it. And she is also supposed to be a child and turned out looking much older than she really should have. So she was a total fail, but every other head on this page turned out pretty decently. And actually some of the heads on this page are some of my favorites from the whole challenge. So it was a decent day overall. Now this is my least favorite day, and I feel discouraged to say that because it's it's one of the last days of the challenge. I used an orange Prismacolor marker because it doesn't feather as badly as the other alcohol-based markers, and I thought I could still do a pretty cute sketch layer. And then I used a kind of a gel consistency pen over top. And this is the day that I was practicing the children. All of the heads on this page, I believe, were children, except for there was like one teenager, kind of teenage looking head. And I don't know, they look like children. I think I definitely got the age thing right, but I feel like the orange marker just, I don't know, it looked creepy. It didn't really look cute. And this kid is another of my least favorite heads of the whole challenge. He's got his tongue sticking out, so his facial proportions are all weird and stretched because of the expression that he's making. And I just don't think that he looks realistic at all, and he looks very freaky. But this little girl that I'm drawing in the bottom left corner, I think turned out pretty cute. So she's probably my favorite head of the day, potentially. And I wish that all of the heads had turned out as cute as she did, but they didn't. And here's the teenager. In the image, to me, he looks like maybe he's 15 or 16. And I think the girl on the bottom right here is the girl from the Chronicles of Narnia, Lucy. I don't know. I'm not a Chronicles of Narnia fan, so maybe Lucy isn't the right name, but I think that that's the name of the actress. And it doesn't, again, she looks creepy. I don't know. I feel like I did not do a very good job of drawing these children and not making them look creepy for the most part. But anyway, second to last day, I believe we have here, I used purple colored pencil, and because I think at this point I decided, okay, the orange marker and black pen day looked horrible in my opinion, and my favorite days were colored pencil with ballpoint pen over top. So that's what I returned to, and this was a great day for me. So days 6, 7, and 9 I think were the best days for me, and so I kind of got a 2 for the price of 1 on the first drawing there because the reference image included 2 people, so I got to draw 2 heads at once, and I think that actually helped me fit everybody on the page a little bit better. So we have 2 teenage guys, an Asian girl. That girl, the third head that I drew, is a really nice one. And then an old man, and then this lady. So yeah, basically this challenge was not that fun. At times I really enjoyed it. For the most part, it felt like a chore, honestly. But I really wanted to do it in the 10 days, 10 consecutive days, because I felt like if I spaced it out, did it in 10 days but non-consecutively, then it wouldn't really give me that rapid sense of improvement, and I might not learn as much if it wasn't still fresh on my mind like the things that I had learned in previous days. So I oftentimes came to this pretty late at night when I was tired and didn't really want to do it. Lately, I feel like I've been going to bed way too late, and this challenge definitely did not help with that because it would be 9 o'clock at night, and like I said, it'd take me an hour and a half every time I sat down to do it. So I wouldn't get done until 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and then I would still have to do my nighttime routine before bed. So a lot of times I wasn't going to bed until midnight, and so that made the challenge more difficult. So I would recommend, if you're more disciplined than me, to do this in the afternoon when you're fresh instead of doing it late at night. And you can probably tell in a lot of these clips that I had just gotten out of the shower or something. I've got a towel over my shoulder that you can see barely off frame in the corner there. Yeah, so that's definitely me coming to this late at night. So this is the final day, and I was really relieved to be just about done with it. By the end of the challenge, I realized that filming on the left side of the paper is probably better because I'm right-handed and my hand's not blocking you from being able to see what I'm doing. So I do feel like I learned a lot during this challenge. I think that I still need to work on composition and page layout when I'm sketching, but I wasn't pre-planning. I was literally drawing ahead and then just flipping to the next head of the Pinterest board and just drawing it. So I wasn't pre-planning what heads I wanted to do or how I wanted to lay out the page. I was just basically going at random. So these, like I said, final 10 heads here, and I think that this is a good day, but it's definitely not like one of my favorites. And you can tell this is the day that I incorporated the old ladies. I drew 3 old ladies this day, and I don't think that I had drawn any old ladies previously, so I finally got my old ladies in. So I think I got plenty of practice drawing children and old ladies, but I think I still need more practice for the children. And that's it for this challenge. It was enlightening for me, and I would recommend doing it, but doing it at a reasonable time of day. That would probably be of the most benefit to you. Let me know what you think of the heads. Let me know which head of mine was your favorite, and I will see you all in a later video. Thanks. Bye.